Welcome to another exciting episode of Deadlines with 6 Speed Comics, starring, uh,
That would be
Kenny.
Kenny Williams. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're
I
welcome.
forgot my name for a minute there,
That's okay. That's why I'm here. That's why I'm here.
but starring myself, Kenneth Williams, and the aforementioned.
James Roberts.
I'm lying. We didn't mention you before.
It's okay. It's all right. I
Uh,
like that our names are under there so that people can identify us.
I appreciate that too. Today we are going to be. What are we going to be doing today, James?
We're going to be discussing Blue Origins. Is that how we're going?
X-Men Blue Origins. Once again,
Okay.
we will be chasing the
The
plot.
plot.
Yeah, this is the follow-up one-shot to um, the Uncanny.
Spider-Man. Spider-Man. Woo.
Thank you. I almost
We
said
got a lot of picking
Nightcrawler.
up going on today.
I think so, man. I really wanted to say
I'm going to have to pay
Nightcrawler.
attention now. Yes, well, and technically you would have been correct.
Oh man. So yeah, this is gonna be an interesting conversation because in essence what has happened is they what's the word that we use for it when they do an update to the mythos? What's
That
the
would
writing term?
the writing term.
Hmm.
Jeez. Re something or other. I can't think of
Well, we can go with just retelling, I guess.
it. Yeah, the retelling. That's a good one. Yeah, retelling is good. That still works.
Yeah, because in essence what they have done is revamped the
Okay, that works too.
yeah, they've revamped the origin of Nightcrawler, the one and the only Kurt Wagner. And I guess we want to see whether or not the revamp was well done or not.
Or not.
Or not. So now, James made me do some research. He made me. He made me do some research because the rumor that they put out, that Marvel Comics put out in their see, I can't think straight tonight. I don't understand. But in their call sheets, I guess to say, their advertisements, they put out that this retelling is actually the storyline that Chris Claremont originally wanted to make to the Nightcrawler mythos from the very beginning. And James made me read through article after article to find out if this was just a part of their campaign or whether or not it actually happened. So my research came back that Chris Claremont actually did want to tell this story. However, he never found the right opportunity to tell the story, so he kept putting it off for other stories.
Which is very interesting.
Very interesting to me.
Well, well, actually, I didn't hear, but I kind of would would guess, particularly at the time, it wasn't this type of storytelling wouldn't have been broadly
Well
accepted.
received.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
exactly.
I guess that we'll get into what exactly do we mean by that. But when I read some of the articles from the artists that work with him, the writers that took over after he left,
Hmm.
that he went. I mean, this goes back to the 70s. So many times he started wanting to tell the story, and then he said, and he felt like it was not being received. That I don't know if the story was not developed enough. And then even when he teamed up with Bob Davis to do Excalibur, then he was going to retell the story again, and because it was Excalibur, as you know, was pretty much Nightcrawler's book. It was the
Yeah,
Nightcrawler Kitty Pryde show.
exactly. Well, they are like original X-Men, so it really was
Yeah. Well, you can say
in a
Rachel
different
too.
situation. Yeah. She's not an original X-Men,
No,
but
she's not. But a lot of
she's
her story arc was
yeah,
delved
involved in
into.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But and it's funny. He went deep into the mythos with Kitty Pryde. He went deep into the mythos of Rachel. He even went deep into the mythos of Captain Britain and Megan.
Hmm.
But he never got around to the mythos of Nightcrawler, which I thought was interesting. I thought it was very interesting that he never got that far. And then, of course, all the subsequent books that happened afterwards. It wasn't until like the early 90s that Claremont got off the book. And to think that he never got around to telling this story.
Well, I think again, you got to imagine that editing had questions about whether they should do it now or
Right,
not. There's a
right.
lot of stuff that they kind of pushed off. Remember, for the longest time, we didn't know what Logan's full name was.
This is true. It
You know
wasn't
what I mean?
until
For the
the.
longest, it was a big mystery, and it was a good mystery because you're
Yeah,
always wondering. They didn't really have give you too much hints, but
right.
it was a good mystery because it made him mysterious, and I kind of like that about Nightcrawler as well.
That's
Just the
fair.
nature of who he is
Right.
mysterious.
So let's get into this story, sir. Now,
Okay,
now,
sir.
now that we put all the intrigue in front of everybody, what exactly are we talking about? Would you like to start with exactly what we originally thought that Nightcrawler's background was?
No, I don't want to start that. Um, my
Touch
because
him, Lord.
I really didn't research that part, but I will say, from my recollection,
Uh huh.
it was always thought that Mystique had given birth to Nightcrawler, but for some reason, everybody sort of knew it, but nobody, it wasn't confirmed, and
Right.
she didn't act like that was his mother. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Although it's
She
kind of
always treated him with a little contempt,
exactly
like he
so,
was an accident.
or something worse, somebody's child that she didn't want to have.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like she was forced to have or something like that. So it was always like she was almost like uh, I don't want to say a bad mom, but
She
uh,
was a bad mom.
yeah. Well, she's bad, so
If you thought she was bad before you read X Men Origins,
Oh, yeah, yeah. Well, she obviously didn't put her best foot forward with Kirk.
right,
So and to me it was a big mystery. As to who the father was, how it all played out, what have you.
right.
You know, but the assumption was that she was the mother. Boy, were we wrong.
We were so wrong.
We were so wrong.
Okay, so let me also throw in the fact that according to the books that we grew up reading,
Hmm.
and Lord have mercy. Okay, so there was this
Lord have
there was
mercy.
this issue of the X Men where they had to
Hmm.
deal with the Mutant Liberation Front.
Yes.
And oh, was it the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants? It was the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. And Nightcrawler saw Mystique for the first time,
Hmm. That
and
was way
he
back.
right way back, and he says specifically, "What? What? Who are you? And why do you look so much like me?"
Hmm.
And from even in that first thing, that was the first time that everyone thought is Mystique the mom. But even then, she treats him with contempt. It feels like, and that's a big college. That's an SAT word.
Yes. Let's
Um,
let's break that down so that I can understand what you're talking about.
so it basically means that she was hostile towards him. She acted like she was disgusted to be in his presence, and she didn't deny anything, which made it very suspicious. But then she said there'll be plenty of time to get around to that later on. That
Yeah.
was in the 1980s, early
Okay.
80s, if I remember correctly.
Wow. You remember back then?
Yeah, I remember that. And here it is, 2024,
They finally reveal a secret.
and they finally revealed the secrets.
Good.
So, uh, the mainstay of
Recon.
the Brotherhood of Evil
Retcon.
Mutants.
Retcon.
That's the word we were looking
That
for.
was the word.
Yes.
I was getting
Woo.
close. Just took me a minute.
I'm
The
glad you didn't
gears
have
were
an
turning.
aneurysm on that,
They
man.
were turning. You know how fast they go.
So it's a retcon, but somehow they made it feel like it wasn't. So what we thought we knew about Nightcrawler was that who was it? Back in the 1800s or early 1900s, they weren't specific with it. They
Yes,
were
they
not
were.
specific with it. It had to be earlier than that because Nightcrawler is not 100 years old.
Right.
But Raven had gone into a Slavic-speaking country,
Hmm.
where she had hooked up with a count in said country and messed up because that's what she always alluded to, that she
Hmm.
messed up and got pregnant with the count's child, and the baby came out blue with what looked like forked fingers and forked toes and
Pointed
looked
ears.
pointed ears, looking very much like a demon. And she killed the count, but
Dun,
before she
dun, dun.
but before she killed the count, the people, you know, they grabbed forks and pitchforks and
Yes. Torches.
torches,
Torches. There you go.
right? And they chased after Raven, who, out of inconvenience to her, deciding that the baby was inconvenient, threw him over a waterfall, right?
Yeah. That's
And left the
nice.
country.
Okay.
And he was discovered by a traveling band of gypsies, Margali, who was his foster mom, and not a very good foster mom at all.
Yes.
She
Truly
dealt in
was not.
witchcraft, right? And then years later, Xavier found him in that traveling circus where he was bullied and scorned as a demonic man or something along that lines. But Xavier was surprised to see what manner of man that Kurt was, because as a mind reader, he could tell that, oh, this is a man of character. This is a man of substance. For someone who is vilified, I think that when Xavier found him, he was about to be stoned to death.
Yeah, the villagers were after him again.
Once again, that pitchfork and torch thing, I don't know. It's
And I
just,
believe he was hiding out in a church, right?
he was hiding out in a church. That's right. So that's the history we had. Later on, the history was retconned, and I think it was really due to the movie X-Men. What was it? First year?
Yeah. Yeah. First
Yeah,
year.
first year. It was retconned to that where they had to explain the demon Azazel.
Yes.
So now it was retconned to the fact that Nightcrawler, rather that Mystique, as the Countess, had an affair with Azazel and had his child. So, and everything else still followed suit. She killed the
Hmm.
Count, pitchforks and torches, throw the baby over the waterfall. Talk about
Yes.
throwing out the baby with the bathwater. That's
Minus
exactly,
the bathwater.
man, that's exactly what happened. So now it turns out that Azazel is Kirk's father. So let's get into this book.
Yes, sir.
As retcons go, I will say this.
Hmm.
This was well written.
Okay.
It surprised me that they were able to do it. I came into this book much like I went into the Uncanny Spider-Man with a lot of cynicism because, as James knows, and as I have mentioned before, I am a purist when it comes to my comic book history. So I don't. I'm not a big fan of change. And I didn't mean to make my head so big that I'm
Yeah.
towering over.
You was trying to intimidate me a little bit there. Is he getting larger? What's going on here?
But yeah, I came into this with a lot of skepticism. Nightcrawler is my boy. He's actually has always been one of my favorite X-Men because well, we have some similarities,
There you go.
especially when it comes to faith. So I came into this with skepticism, but was very quickly turned around because of the story. So, how does the story begin, James?
Begins. I believe they're having a discussion as she is losing her grasp on reality in a sense because she's trying to remember but she can't, and she keeps going through these very painful
Emotions.
emotions and just pain. I believe the head
Actually,
injury
let me throw
uh,
this in. This is also the conversation that happened
in book
towards the end of book four
right,
of Nightcrawler, rather the Uncanny
Uncanny
Spider-Man.
Spider-Man.
So
Yes,
this is the conversation that he had with her off screen.
they talked.
Continue.
Yes. Anywho, thanks for the update, Ken.
Who, of any?
Uh, they she then well actually Nightcrawler's about to reveal that he is Nightcrawler because he's still wearing a mask at this point. I guess he's
But
but she is very dismissive of him. She the what is it? What's the D word that I'm looking for? Not dismisses, but just doesn't like his presence because he helps the humans and he's a
contempt.
disgrace. Yes, contempt, more contempt. Anyway, she then has like almost like a, I don't want to say a seizure, but she has some kind of convulsion, and he what, does he pull out his sword then, the hope sword?
Not yet. Not yet.
What happens before that?
Well, the first thing that happens is that she said, I knew from the beginning with that stupid
Oh,
costume that you are Nightcrawler.
that's when he took the mask off. You're right.
Right,
You're right.
right.
When he took that mask off, she just didn't.
Care.
Yeah. Well, I thought that was after the sword. I thought that was after she had held the sword and started healing from that hope sword.
Right. He
Because I
did
feel
pull
like
out the
that,
sword and
right?
he,
And he actually held it to her like he was going to attack her,
right,
and then he handed it to her because he
right,
said he trusted her.
right.
And I thought she was going to slice him up, but
I
she
thought
didn't.
that she was going to gut him like a fish.
But as she held it, she got all of these flashes of her past and what had happened, the truth of what had happened. And I
Right,
kind of like that too, because apparently there's a long sordid story that goes into why Kurt was born.
right.
And it all
But,
stems from,
but before we get into that,
okay,
the first flashback that she had was at the mutant gala.
oh yeah,
So
when,
right. So what triggered all of these memories is twofold. So the first thing that happened is when Xavier commanded everybody to go through the portal.
this was during
His
the attack,
during the attack when Nimrod came down and just from orbit
started wiping stuff out.
and
Yeah.
started wiping stuff up and killing the humans. Xavier gave a command for all the mutants to go through the portals to escape to safety.
And it was something about like leave Earth, right?
It was like leave Earth. He was telling them to go to Mars. Mind you, none of them made it to Mars, but that's another story. If you want us to cover that, let us know. But the push, the mental push was so harsh and so strong that it messed with her memory, her own psychic barriers were damaged to the point that her mind regressed to a time where she was more focused so that she would be able to handle the stress that just came from her. So basically, she got brain damage, and to save her mind regressed to
Okay.
something that happened before. And
An
then
earlier time.
and at an earlier time, and she threw herself out the window, landed head first. Like I said in the second video, she jumped out the
Yes.
window,
Fell off of a cliff.
fell out the building, and then
Yes.
off of a cliff, and landed on the rocks below and smashed her head open. But she's a shapeshifter, so the damage from her head hitting her skull hitting the ground, and from the psychic attack that she received, regressed her mind to a point where she can see glimpses of something that happened in the past that she had no recollection of.
Right. That
Back to
was
you.
that was sort of a that was Kenny kind of expounded very greatly on that one little shot that they gave.
Yeah,
Uh, but yes,
that's what I
that's
do,
one of the things
James.
that she remembered, and it's
Yeah.
a bunch of images showed up into her head, and
Mm.
she sort of, in the rest of their conversation, started sorting through what had actually happened. Anyway, she talked about her being. She started explaining to Kurt all the revelations that she was having, and she was still very contemptuous towards him. But she said, she one, she was with the count, and two, Destiny had showed up in the township,
Which we did
and
not know previously.
yes, that was one of those new things that was retconned, I guess. She got her a job as a maid inside
The Count's house.
the count's house, we'll call it, yes. And they would sneak off together and do their thing while the count was out, doing business, I guess. And Destiny convinced her. Well, first what's his name, Azrael?
Azazel.
Azazel showed up, and she convinced Raven to sleep with him. Raven didn't want to, but she was convinced that apparently they had an open relationship, very, very open,
Yeah.
and she convinced her to be able to sleep with him. Uh, she didn't know why. I'm talking about Raven didn't know why, but she was convinced. After that, strangely enough, Destiny talked about having a baby with Raven.
Okay, we need to pause for a second because I'm sure that we have some viewers that are on board that have no idea who this person is. Who is this person, James?
That is Destiny. What's her full name?
Irene Adler.
There we go. And that's a very interesting name because that reminds me of another character named Irene Adler. Who is that?
I don't
Is there
know.
another Irene Adler? And you know what I keep thinking about?
What?
Sherlock Holmes.
Ooh, there was an Irene.
And I think her last name was Adler. Isn't she the one who was hooking up with the doctor?
I think you are absolutely correct. Which is funny because uh, you're really good, James, because I did not make that connection, and I should have, and I'm going to kick myself for not realizing it. But Irene Adler was a match for Sherlock Holmes, and in Marvel Comics,
Mm-hmm.
Irene actually did know Sherlock Holmes.
Well, 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 well. That's very interesting.
Very, very, very interesting. Yeah, so Irene Adler is a fictional character in the Sherlock Holmes stories by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. She is a former opera singer and actress who first appeared in 1891. And if I remember correctly, she was also a mastermind. Someone who, what's the word that I'm looking for?
She was really bright.
She was really bright. She was also and this comes in, uh, it kind of messes with me and you a little bit because she was a forger.
Ah,
She forged paintings, and in the Marvel comics, this Irene Adler and Destiny are one and the same.
wow.
Are
That's
one and the same.
impressive.
I completely forgot about that. I feel a little slow, but that's okay.
It's
It
all
won't.
right,
It
man.
won't be the
Every
first time.
once in a while, I gotta shine too, you know.
Yeah, yo, that was just
Every
well
once in a
played.
while.
So, what we should let people know is that Destiny is also a mutant, and her mutant is what do you call it? Prediction.
Yes,
So
prediction.
she sees not just the future, but she sees multiple timelines. So one of the things that we found out in this retelling, and we've seen it before because it's been mentioned in different comics, but Irene always tries to push the the timeline where her and Mystique survive together.
Right. So she can sort of see pathways from
Yes.
choices that can lead you to a particular end that she would guess what she would want.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And
So that
it's
brings another question
go ahead.
to me. That means in this universe that you know time is not set.
Static. Right.
Yeah, it is ever changing depending on the choices that different people make, and she's got the advantage of being able to see glimpses into that future.
Right. It's a dumbed down. Well, actually, the MCU TVA is a dumbed down version of it, but it
Okay,
goes pretty deep. And we've had the diaries of Destiny. We've had the prophecy of the 12.
hmm
She's played a major role in Marvel mutant universe.
you know
But
what?
yeah,
Go ahead.
well, what I was gonna say, but we've always wondered about her motives because she was always the quiet one. You know, Mystique was the one who did all the shooting and all the stabby. And
Exactly.
it always felt like Irene was the passive, quiet one that needed to be protected. But this story is flipping everything on its head and making you understand no, she was the
She
person
was, yeah, she was the what do you call it, the mastermind,
mastermind.
and she actually used Raven as a way to trigger things, to make things happen.
Right,
She was using it like a tool, if you will,
right.
to accomplish what she wanted to accomplish. So that was a big change. What I was going to say earlier when you said mutant universe, I was going to say mutant community because
That's better.
I get the sense, at least storytelling wise, that they think of them all as, yes, they disagree. Yes, some of them are criminals. Yes, some of them are good guys, but they're all still connected to the fact that
Mm-hmm.
they're mutants. And because of that, they can still discuss stuff. They can still talk about things. They can help each other do things and accomplish things, as long as it helps the mutant community.
You just described the premise behind the Krakoa age.
Oh, well, well, well.
Well played. Well played.
Well played. It was
I encourage you to raise your right hand. Go ahead, do it right now.
okay. All right.
Hold it over your left shoulder
And pat myself
and
on the
pat yourself
back.
on the back.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate that. I appreciate that.
Oh man! So now we find out that now we didn't know this when she told her that she needed to sleep with Azazel.
right. That was completely, and we had no idea
Right.
why.
Now
And
we had gotten indication from the beginning of the story that
mhm,
Raven is telling that uh, they had an open marriage and they had an understanding. They would separate for years at a time, and the
mhm.
understanding was that if you get lonely or you need some money, go ahead and marry somebody.
Yeah, do what you have to do
Do
to
what you have to do
survive.
to survive. Just make sure that whoever you do it with benefits you and me,
Hmm.
which is why getting her the job as a maid meant that they could be together whenever they wanted to.
Yep, and you got to live in that lap of luxury and be
That's
taken
right.
care of. Yeah,
And
so
then she says, "Oh, while you're at it, sleep with Azazel."
yeah, like that came out of the blue, but apparently Raven is easily manipulated by Destiny. I think she knew she
Yes,
had an ulterior motive, but she trusted her.
she trusts her almost to a simp stage.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. I would agree with that.
Right.
I would agree with
So she sleeps with Azazel.
that. Oh, then Destiny is pregnant, so she's starting the show so that things don't get well, things do get confusing, but Raven starts to show as well. Now, this is where I got uh, a little confused about something that
You got
Raven said.
confused, James. You got
Yes, I
confused.
got confused. I got so confused I couldn't talk anymore. But the confusion is something that she said. She said, "We both carried the baby,"
Right.
and I was like, "What does she mean by that?" And I realized that Raven can manipulate her body and she can carry things like guns and stuff and what have you. But could she carry a baby? I mean,
Right.
literally. I don't know if she was just talking figuratively in the sense that she did make it like she had a baby and that they both were carrying at the same time.
Well, I think
Or,
you also left out the part where not Raven, but Irene said, "I want to have, I want us to make a baby together."
yeah, I was going to say that earlier and you stopped me. That's what happened. I'm
Okay.
blaming you. It's all your
Okay, I'll
fault.
take it. I'll take it.
No, no, you're right. The Destiny, you call her Irene, I call it Destiny. It's the
That's
same
fine.
person we're
It's
talking
same
about.
person.
Yeah, so that nobody's confused. Uh, yeah, like I said, she slept with Azazel,
Azazel.
Azazel,
That's like me and
Azazel.
Silver Sable.
Oh yes, Azazel. And then
Karma is rough, man.
then she told her she wanted to have a baby with her,
Right.
and that was like to me again another weird moment. And then I didn't know.
Nobody knew.
So Raven goes like it's regular. So we had a baby,
Right.
and Kurt was like, "But it doesn't exactly work that way."
You're two women.
And she was like, "Oh, you think I don't know how to manipulate every I think she said every DNA strand or something like that in my body."
Yeah. Every
So
gene, she said.
yeah, every level of her body she can manipulate. So she made herself into a
A
man.
man. Using genetic traits that she borrowed from every man that she's ever been in
Slept
contact
with,
with.
yeah. Slept
Yeah,
with.
slept with. So
Yeah,
that
because
includes Azazel, the Count.
which is why the teleportation,
Yeah,
the count because of I guess the regalness of him
yeah,
and whomever else
right.
is that she made those genes for Kurt.
So
And
this
that
is,
would also explain a lot of his personality. The
yeah.
swashbuckler, the
Mm-hmm.
religious guy,
Mm-hmm.
the friend, or somebody you could count on.
He
You know,
comes
all
from
of
good
these things.
genes.
He
He
comes from
co-
a lot of genes, actually.
Yeah, but
Uh,
what's amazing at this point is this is where the retcon truly shines because we now understand. We all think have always thought of Mystique as just a shapeshifter, but
Right.
she's not a shapeshifter. She's a gene shifter.
Yeah, they mentioned that in the book in that particular way.
And
Gene.
that blows my mind. I mean, we had
And by
just
the way, spoilers.
uh-oh.
We're like telling the entire book right
Yeah,
here
we
at
are. We
this
truly
point.
are.
We may want to reel it back a little bit so that we don't we have to leave some surprises for somebody to check it out.
Okay, but suffice it to say that the
Yes.
storytelling here blew my mind. At this point, I was sold on this story because that made that one little script change made all the difference in the world. It explained Nightcrawler and it explained Mystique and it showed how much of a manipulator Destiny was.
Mm,
And, when it came to Destiny, Mystique has always been willing to unalive someone. I
thank you.
caught myself.
Thank you.
She's always been willing to be absolutely merciless when it comes to anyone looking at Destiny the wrong way. But to have the whole story twisted that she was actually the one that was being led by the nose the whole time, the whole time, and it made to me it made Destiny look more like a monster because she's manipulating all these events just so that things work out to a particular favor, and to me that's the ultimate of selfishness. Even what the
Wow.
even
Wow.
what these two women have been doing throughout history. And we don't actually know how old Destiny is.
Right.
Okay? We don't actually know how old Destiny is. And we don't actually know how old Raven is. Both of them have been around for a very long time. But they have been operating in a sense of entitlement, utilizing manipulation, all for the purpose of being selfish in their gains so that they can be together. And in every iteration of them coming back together, they're in a better place than they were before. So now I'm at the point that, mind you, as far as I know, she still threw the baby over the waterfall.
Well, we're not going to go into what she did with the baby. Well, actually, I do have sort of a bone of contention with
Go ahead.
how that was done, but I don't want to reveal. I don't know what we should edit out here. Needless to say, what you are just talking about with Destiny and Raven manipulating, which is very negative, Ken.
Yes, it is. Absolutely.
Very, very negative. They are bad guys. Both of them
Yeah, they
fall.
proved it. They
They
absolutely
fall
proved
under
it.
that category. But I think in some cases, most of mankind is selfish. If we're going to argue that, they were very human. What would a human being do if they could see into the future? They would use it to their advantage. Who
Well,
wouldn't?
right.
You know what I mean? It's like, and that could be
Kurt wouldn't do it.
no. He would use it to his advantage. He would.
He would use it to help people.
Yes, but that would be still to his advantage.
Okay.
He would benefit from that as well. I guess. Like one of
I
the
don't
things
know.
that I thought was interesting, or at least gave me they're in a difficult position when you're able to see the future. Now, maybe we may be adding some layers onto the character, but when you're able to see into the future, there's a responsibility there. You can't just. Well, actually, I guess you could just allow things to happen the way they're going to happen.
Speaking of seeing into the future, let me
Uh
just
oh.
say that I'm looking in the future right now, and I just see people checking us out on 6bcomics.com,
Wow, that's awesome.
Instagram, and YouTube.
That was an awesome transition, I must say.
Listen. I want to
You've been
become
working
the
on that.
master of segue. I want to
Okay.
be the master of the segue. But we invite you. Check us out. And don't just look at the pretty pictures because there are a lot of pretty pictures on our websites. But we also want you to hit us up. Let us know what topics you would like us to talk about. And we'll talk about them because, we're also easily manipulated.
And we're not, yes, yes.
Oh, man. That was
So let
awesome.
us know. Let us know. Very good. Now, what was I saying before you
You were
segued?
talking about the fact that if you see the future,
Yeah,
um,
there's a level of responsibility there. You know, things can, especially if you can see like she can, the different possibilities that the future can have through different decisions. And I would imagine her as a character has to be cold in some of her decision making because a lot of the things that we as human beings, we have to do something that's hard and tough in order to get the result that we want.
right.
And that, you know, that is just what she did with Kurt, really. Uh, there's future problems that she foresaw, and the path that she saw was this, I'll say, abandoned child with mutant abilities would be the one who'd be able to solve them.
But
And
only
so,
if
but only if,
he had to live this kind of life.
yeah,
He had to
he was
be,
abandoned. He had
he
to be
had,
abandoned. He had to be raised in that particular manner. He had to be hated. He
mm-hmm,
had to be, he had to deal with all of that, not knowing who he was, why he was,
right.
and he had to be in the dark for a lot of that. But there, there's so many different little things that went on in this this story. In the fact that they also had their memories wiped.
Voluntarily.
Yes, they wanted to not remember. I mean,
Literally, the reason for her contempt against Nightcrawler is because she had the love that she had for him removed from her memories.
yeah,
That's
I,
insane to me.
that's wild. Yeah, that's very wild.
Whoa, whoa, whoa,
And
whoa. And that's after
uh-huh.
another child was introduced into the mix.
Yes, that child would be Rogue.
Right.
Uh, she was sort of adopted by both Destiny and
Which
Raven.
we already knew. But the thing that messed me up is that took me back to early in the book when Destiny told Raven that she always wanted to have a daughter.
Yes, the daughter was the whole thing. And now, matter of fact, when they found out it was a boy, she had mentioned that
Yeah.
she wanted a daughter. She was hoping for a daughter.
Which meant that even back then she already saw Rogue.
Hmm.
That's just
Well,
insane to me. Again, it's just manipulation. So if you're following, if you're
yeah, that's
follow,
that's the thing that bothered me with the story. If anything, there were so many little twists, one after the other, after the other, after the other. And if you know the history,
right,
you're fine. If you don't know the history,
you're like, wow, I didn't
yeah,
know all this happened.
this is sorted. Even if you know the history, you don't.
Right,
You're like, wow, there's something else. Oh, there's something else. Oh, he got involved. Oh, he got involved. Oh, he. I mean, it's just like so many different characters. It was good because it was so sorted, but it was also confusing because it was so sorted.
right.
Confusing.
Confusing. So
Yes.
let me do this right quick,
Yes, please.
because I've been dying to do this the
Yes,
whole
please do.
show. Okay, so just in case you were having trouble following along, because a
She's
lot,
throwing it back.
because a lot has happened. Okay, so First, we have Destiny, who showed up in the story, right? And then following Destiny, we had Azazel, who showed
Azazel.
up. Okay, and then of course, we have what's his face? What's her face? I can't even throw her picture up. And this is all okay. So we've got the Count first,
Mm-hmm.
then Destiny,
Mm-hmm.
who tells Mystique to sleep with
Azazel.
Azazel, right? And then she tells what they kill the Count because she gets pregnant.
Yeah, the Count catches them.
The Count catches them,
Yeah.
only
That's
to
true.
find out that no, I'm not going to tell that plot of the story, even though I really want to. Oh, wait. And all this is just for the telling of this one
Yeah, it was so deep.
retcon. It was
Yes, it was
powerful.
it was very very deep. And if you have like a history with the characters, you would enjoy it more than if you did.
Right.
But it was still enjoyable. Do not get me wrong, because it was so sordid. You could see how these two ladies were mixed up into all sorts of bad stuff.
At which brings me back to the point of realizing that both of these ladies
Hmm.
were villains. James, they were such villains.
Well, like I said, from a certain perspective, yes.
I mean, listen, I love the solo books of Mystique where
Hmm.
she takes on an anti-hero role.
Yes.
But the fact that, she went through all of this story sharing with Nightcrawler what her past was,
Hmm.
and she apologized for nothing. She
Well,
apologized for nothing.
that
She
is completely her character. That is completely her
exactly,
character. Yes.
exactly. So you're like, yeah, let's keep her on her side because her sense of morality, and I always,
You say
and
that loosely.
yeah, and I've got to say this. I know I said this earlier, but I'm gonna say this again. I always thought that her sense of morality, Destiny could see the heart behind it all, and that was her redeeming factor, right?
Hmm.
But leaving this story, I walked around recognizing that her lack of morality is being fed like coal to a furnace by Destiny herself.
Yeah, Destiny. Every time she did something major, Destiny was convinced her to do it.
That's right, every single time. So it makes you wonder who would she be if she had never met Destiny?
Yeah, that's a good question. That's a very good question.
Yeah, it's again this story arc, this story, and it's a one shot, so it's a simple. I'm not going to say it's a simple read, but
But it's a one shot, so you get the full story of all these different characters
are we going to
and how
come
it
back
plays out.
and are we going to come back and finish this up, or are we going to leave it right here,
I think we're gonna leave it right here because I think we already went
deeper than
too
we
far.
needed to?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. At least we didn't tell you how it ended.
yeah, yeah. At least.
But I
But
will
that
say
was a lot of fun. That was a lot of fun.
that was a lot of fun, and it was surprising. I think that what was done properly is the manipulation of the history. And I think what made the story work was pushing Mystique to the back and bringing Destiny to the front.
Mm,
Because that changed the definition of the entire history that we knew.
yeah, that's very true.
Uh, you know, Changing her from being a shapeshifter to a gene shifter, that's nice. And they said that there were notes in it that said that if were, she would be an omega level if she can also mimic people's powers.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. As a matter of fact, I did a quick look. Well, I'm not going to say anything else about the story. We're ending it right now. But yeah,
Yeah,
she cannot mimic powers.
Right.
That would be awesome.
That would be frightening.
Yeah, she would be like what's his name? Well, you know, Legion.
She would be, yeah,
It would be
terrifying.
like Rogue, like
Yes.
where Rogue
Yes.
steals powers. She
Right.
would be able to take powers just by
Looking
genetic
at them. Well,
manipulation.
she would
Yeah.
be more like Sync.
Oh yes, very good. Sync.
She would be more like Sync. But
Yes.
I think that, when it comes to retconning 101,
Hmm.
to be able to change an entire story just by pulling a background character to the forefront, that's kind of incredible when you think about it.
Okay, I'm gonna stop you right there because originally this was Chris Claremont's story,
Yes, it was.
so there wasn't a lot of changes per se, except for the fact that now he can focus on moving characters like that. Like the
Yeah.
story itself was already laid out, so maybe he looked and said, "How can I put my stamp on this story?"
Mm-hmm.
Because it was definitely a story that was already at least put together in some
Right.
semblance, and I'm sure he wanted to put his signature on there somewhere. Maybe that or some other way. I definitely think the situation itself, of how they found out, where they found out, and when they found out,
Right.
had a lot to do with the writer, Sai.
Right. Sai is a beast. He's a beast. But in addition to that, so the follow up to this book was X-Men The Wedding Special. You can read that any way you want to. And
Okay.
then at the end of the fall of Krakoa, as I told you in the last episode of Deadlines, Chasing the Plot, Chris Claremont came out of retirement. I don't know if he retired or not. I don't think he retired, but he came out of retirement to write a story, a quiet story of a
Okay.
picnic. And I only told you two names before. I told you that it was Nightcrawler
Hmm.
and Mystique, but also Destiny and Rogue.
Well, that's a family unit right there.
That's a family unit, and as you already know, Kurt and Rogue, throughout, especially towards the end of Chris Claremont's run, they started seeing each other as siblings.
Right.
they
Okay.
they started treating each other as siblings. They have a special relationship where they just don't necessarily get into each other's way, but they always support each other.
Okay. Oh,
Which,
that's interesting too.
yeah, they've always supported each other. So the fact that this story was enough to pull Chris Claremont out of retirement to give his put his touch on it and give his final words on this story arc, I thought that was pretty insane.
Well,
So all in all, what's your final verdict of X-Men Blue Origins?
uh, hmm, I really don't have a final because I kind of didn't want to hear the full thing. I like that it was a mystery. I like that I didn't know what his true lineage was.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, as things are, like I said before, it feels like an ending. It feels like an ending, and as opposed to a new beginning.
Okay.
I felt like, as a matter of fact, I really thought Kurt was not going to make it out of this whole thing.
Right.
Like I felt like this might be, at least as X Men go, a farewell to Nightcrawler.
I'm really glad it's not. I look forward to the new stories that will come out of this. I can see Nightcrawler as being a foil between Destiny and Mystique.
Really, you think they're going to hang out together?
I think that now that the memories are back, and the emotions that go with those memories, that it's going to be a totally different response when they see each other.
You mean with
And
Mystique?
yeah, with Mystique, well, Destiny too.
Well, what
Destiny.
happens with Destiny? Does Destiny have her memories? Because I know
Oh,
from the
you're
first
right.
one of this story, she didn't get those back.
Uh,
So,
I will tell you, little spoiler, she got him back.
spoiler time!
Little
Come
spoiler,
on, boys and girls, let's listen.
she got him back.
That's not good. But
But
go ahead. How did she get him back?
uh, let's just say that after this book,
Mm-hmm.
when Mystique now knows the whole truth,
Mm-hmm.
just like early in this actual book, she went after Destiny and was going to put a bullet in her skull
Again.
again,
Yeah,
again.
that's a usual pattern for her. And
Right.
Destiny talked her way out of it and
Yep.
manipulated her to do something. Yeah, yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Yep. 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 So
That is the way it goes.
she got her memory back, and so, but the thing is that, which is why they had the picnic. That's why they had the picnic to begin
Okay.
with.
All right.
So I think that it just opens up to new awkwardness between
Yeah, but
between
I
these.
don't see them hanging out. I don't see them.
Oh, no, no, no. Well, I don't think that they can, because of the nature of the, you know, the full of morals Nightcrawler
Right.
and Rogue, and the moralists, or
Right.
the
That's what I'm
loose
saying.
morality. Yeah, I it's going to make for some very awkward stories.
Now,
But
with the fall of Krakoa,
hmm
what happens to the mutant community if you don't? I know this is sort of a big spoiler, I guess.
it's not
What
a big spoiler.
happens?
What
What
happens is
happens?
that they go back into the world, and
But what about the Sentinels that are hanging around now?
the end of the fall. You have to read the end of Fall of Krakoa,
Okay, all right.
because
We'll stop there.
that's what happened to the Sentinels.
Okay, all right. Okay, copy, copy.
As a matter of fact, I
Very
think I
good.
showed you a cover of one of the books when I showed you the image of Nimrod.
Yes, yes, you
Yeah, that
did.
happened. That happened. That thing happened.
Okay, all right. Okay,
So, but it's you need to read. I know it's going to take you a minute, whether you do the video recaps or buy the actual books. I know you like to actually read.
yes, yes.
Yeah, I would recommend reading from X Men Powers of X and X Men House of X. As a matter of fact, I can get you started on those because I believe I have every single issue and I can lend them to you.
Wow. Let's rock and roll then.
Yeah, because I don't, we that's uh, friends, family. You should know that that's the one thing that we rarely share. We rarely share comic books.
This is true.
This is true. I mean, I've sold mine before I shared them with him, but
Ah,
but yeah, I do have Hawks and Pox, and which is what we lovingly call them.
okay,
So I should be able to start you off with those,
okay.
because I
We'll
believe I
make
have the books to
arrangements.
say.
We'll
Absolutely.
make arrangements. That sounds
And
good.
and now I will warn you that reading Hawks and Pox,
Hmm.
that is the most confusing of all of the books, because you don't know if this is actually happening or if this is an alternate timeline.
Now, I'm starting to think that maybe for a while at least, we should find books that are confusing
Ooh,
and we should do the research for those books so that somebody who doesn't know maybe the history or some of the aspects of the story that we can clean it up.
I'm laughing because isn't that basically what we did with the She-Hulk storyline?
Yes, basically yes.
We
But
cleaned
that
it
would
up.
be yeah, that would be I think a way for us to communicate with new readers and old alike who don't know all of the backstory.
Agreed.
All
Agreed.
right, we're trying to be helpful, guys. We're
Yeah, we want
trying.
to help you guys out. But like I said, if you guys have a storyline that confuses you, and you want us to discuss it, talk about it, we can do that. We have skills like that. And check
And
us out.
yes, check us out. 6B Comics on Instagram and YouTube. That's
So
awesome.
once again, this has been chasing the plot.
With 6B
Kenny,
Comics.
yep,
Yeah, with the founders.
on our deadlines.
Yes. Yes. Deadlines.
So this has been an original 6B Comics feature. Until we meet again, I'm Kenny Williams.
I'm James Roberts.
This has been Chasing the Plot with 6B Comics. And hopefully we'll get a chance to hear from you soon. We want to hear from you guys as well. Have a wonderful evening. Good night.
Good
Peace.
night, everybody. Peace.